The gunshot echoed through the dusty main street of Skidoo, California, on a scorching summer day in 1878. But it wasn't the sound that made Dahlia Foster flinch. It was the memory of the last time she'd heard one. The day her husband had disappeared with everything they owned, leaving her with nothing but a mountain of debt and a heart full of broken promises. Dahlia wiped perspiration from her brow with the back of her sleeve as she stepped out of the dry goods store, the latest unpaid bill clutched in her trembling hand. She tucked a loose strand of auburn hair behind her ear and squared her shoulders, determined not to let the shopkeeper see her despair. At 24, she never imagined she'd be facing financial ruin in this harsh frontier town. Mrs. Foster, the voice of Mr. Simmons, the bank manager, made her stomach clench. He hurried across the street toward her, his face set in a grim expression. "I need a word with you about your husband's outstanding loans." Dahlia felt the stares of townsfolk burning into her back. 5 months had passed since Emmett had vanished, and with each passing day, another debt collector emerged from the woodwork. "Mr. Simmons, I've explained my situation. I'm doing everything I understand your predicament, Mrs. Foster, but the bank can't extend any more grace. We'll be foreclosing on your homestead at month's end if arrangements aren't made." The news hit her like a physical blow. The small homestead just outside town was all she had left. "Please, I just need more time. The dress shop is finally bringing in some money, and you have until the end of the month," he said firmly, tipping his hat before walking away. Dahlia clutched the store's porch rail, fighting the tears threatening to spill. She'd poured everything into the small dress shop she'd opened 3 months ago, using the one skill that might save her. Her fingers were raw from endless hours of sewing, but the income wasn't enough to chip away at the mountain of debt Emmett had left behind. "Miss looks like she could use a drink of water." The deep voice startled her. Dahlia turned to find herself face to face with a tall stranger. Dust coated his denim pants and the worn leather of his boots. His face was partially shadowed by a wide-brimmed hat, but she could see eyes the color of a stormy sky regarding her with concern. "I'm fine, thank you," she said stiffly, embarrassed to be caught in such a vulnerable moment. "No offense intended, madam," he said, removing his hat. His dark blonde hair was tousled, and a few days' worth of stubble covered his jaw. "Liam Westfield." He introduced himself with a slight bow that seemed at odds with his rugged appearance. Despite herself, Dahlia noticed his straight posture and the calloused hands that marked him as a working man. "Dahlia Foster," she replied automatically, then immediately regretted giving her name to a stranger. "Pleasure, Mrs. Foster." His eyes lingered on the bill in her hand. "Couldn't help overhearing. Sounds like you're in a tight spot." Dahlia stiffened. "My affairs are my own concern, Mr. Westfield." A small smile played at the corner of his mouth. "Fair enough. Just thought I might offer some assistance. I've got experience with stubborn bankers." "Unless you have $300 to spare, I doubt there's much you can do," she said, immediately regretting her sharp tongue. It wasn't like her to be so forthright with strangers, but desperation had worn her patience thin. Instead of being offended, Liam Westfield's eyes crinkled with something resembling admiration. "Honesty, refreshing quality out here." He glanced down the street toward the bank. "Mind if I ask what happened to put you in this position?" Dahlia hesitated. This man was a complete stranger, yet something in his direct gaze made her want to unburden herself. "My husband," she finally said, her voice bitter. "He left me with debts I didn't even know existed until the collectors started appearing at my door." Liam nodded slowly, as if her words confirmed something he'd already guessed. "Man leaves a woman to face his debts alone doesn't deserve the title of husband." His blunt assessment matched her own thoughts so precisely that Dahlia found herself nodding. "I've got a dress shop to run, Mr. Westfield. Good day to you." She turned to leave, but his voice stopped her. "Mrs. Foster, I'm looking for work in these parts. Heard the Patterson Ranch might be hiring, but until then, I'm handy with repairs, good with horses, and not afraid of hard work. If you've got anything that needs fixing at your shop or home, I'd be happy to trade labor for a meal." Dahlia studied him. His clothes, while dusty from travel, were well kept. The revolver at his hip was worn but polished, and he carried himself with the quiet confidence of a man comfortable in his own skin. Something told her he wasn't just a drifter looking for handouts. "Why would you want to help a stranger?" she asked suspiciously. "Been on my own since I was 16. Know what it's like when the world seems set against you." He shrugged. "Sometimes a helping hand makes all the difference." Dahlia thought of the broken front step at her shop and the leaking roof that had ruined fabric last week. Repairs she couldn't afford but desperately needed. "My shop is at the end of the street. The step needs fixing and there's a roof leak. I can offer you supper in exchange, but nothing more." Liam's smile reached his eyes. "More than fair. I'll stop by this afternoon if that suits you." Dahlia nodded curtly and walked away, wondering if she'd made a mistake. Trust wasn't something she gave easily anymore, especially to men with kind eyes and ready smiles. Emmett had taught her that painful lesson. True to his word, Liam appeared at her shop that afternoon, toolbox in hand. Dahlia watched from behind her sewing machine as he examined the broken step, then set to work without fuss. He worked efficiently, and by closing time, the step was solid again. "Roof next," he announced, wiping sweat from his brow. "But it'll have to wait till morning if you don't mind." "Light's fading." "That's fine," Dahlia said, impressed despite herself. "I've prepared some stew as we agreed." They walked the short distance to her homestead in companionable silence. The small house sat on the outskirts of town, surrounded by a modest plot of land that in better times had supported a vegetable garden. Now, like everything else, it showed signs of neglect she hadn't had time or energy to address. Over the simple meal, Liam asked about her dress shop, showing genuine interest in her work. Dahlia found herself talking more than she had in months, describing her designs and the challenges of running a business in a frontier town. "How did you learn to sew like that?" he asked, nodding toward a half-finished dress on her work table. "My mother taught me. She was a seamstress back east before she married my father. They came west for a fresh start, like so many others." Dahlia's fingers traced the edge of her plate. "They died of fever when I was 18. I met Emmett a year later." Liam nodded, not pressing for more details. "And the shop, was that your dream or his?" "Mine," she said firmly. "Emmett was always chasing some get-rich-quick scheme or another. The shop was what I wanted after he—" She trailed off. "After he left," Liam finished for her. "He left me with debts," she said, the words tumbling out before she could stop them. "Debts I didn't even know about until creditors started showing up. Gambling debts, loans for investments that never materialized, money borrowed against our homestead." Liam's jaw tightened. Man ought to protect his wife, not leave her to the wolves. Dahlia looked away, embarrassed by her outburst. "I should have been more careful, should have asked more questions." "No," Liam said firmly. "Trust isn't a weakness, Mrs. Foster. Breaking it is." He set his empty bowl aside. "If you don't mind my asking, how much do you owe in total?" Dahlia hesitated, then named a figure that made her stomach clench every time she thought about it. "Nearly $800. The bank loan is the most pressing $300 due by month's end, or I lose the homestead." Liam whistled low. "That's a hefty sum." "Impossible is more like it," she said with a bitter laugh. "I make good dresses, but not that good." Nothing's impossible, Liam said thoughtfully. Just might take some creative thinking. Dahlia shook her head. I've done all the thinking I can. Unless a miracle happens, I'll be homeless by August. Liam was silent for a long moment. I might be able to help. I don't need charity, Mr. Westfield. Not offering any. But I do need a place to stay while I'm in town, and you need repairs and extra income. He gestured to the small barn visible through the window. I could fix up that barn, sleep there, help with repairs around here in exchange for lodging. Any work I get in town, I could contribute toward your debts. Dahlia stared at him. Why would you do that? You don't even know me. Maybe I'm looking to put down roots somewhere. His eyes held hers. Maybe I recognize someone worth helping when I see them, and if I refuse, then I'll tip my hat, thank you for the meal, and be on my way. He smiled. No pressure, Mrs. Foster, just an offer from one hard-working person to another. Dahlia considered his words. Having a man on the property might discourage the more aggressive creditors, and the repairs he could make would be valuable. Still, she hesitated. Let me sleep on it, she finally said. Fair enough. Liam stood. I'll be back tomorrow to fix that roof either way. After he left, Dahlia sat alone at her table, contemplating the strange turn her day had taken. Liam Westfield was an unknown quantity, potentially dangerous. Yet something about his straightforward manner put her at ease in a way she hadn't felt in years. That night, she dreamed of Emmett, not the charming man she'd married, but the stranger he'd become in those final months, secretive and volatile. She woke with tears on her cheeks, and the weight of her impossible situation pressing down on her. By morning, she'd made her decision. Liam arrived just after dawn, true to his word. When Dahlia offered him the arrangement he'd proposed, his smile was warm but not triumphant. I'll earn my keep, he promised. And Mrs. Foster, those debts won't seem so impossible once we tackle them together. She shook her head. I appreciate your optimism, Mr. Westfield, but then I'll pay them and stay beside you, he said simply, as if offering to carry a heavy parcel rather than shoulder the burden of another man's debts. Dahlia stared at him, speechless for a moment. You can't be serious. Dead serious, madam. His eyes held hers. I've got savings. Been working cattle drives for years with nowhere special to spend my earnings. He shrugged. Consider it an investment in your shop. Once you're back on your feet, you can repay me with interest if it makes you feel better. Why? The question escaped before she could stop it. Liam's expression grew serious. Because everyone deserves a second chance, Mrs. Foster. I got mine once. Seems only right to pass it on. The simple sincerity in his voice made her throat tight. I don't know what to say. Say yes. Let someone help you for a change. Dahlia took a deep breath. Yes, she whispered, hardly believing her own words. But I will repay every cent, Mr. Westfield. This is a loan, not charity. His smile returned. Understood, Mrs. Foster. Now about that roof. As July progressed, Liam proved himself a man of his word. He fixed the leaking roof, repaired the barn enough to make it habitable, and spent his mornings helping around the homestead. Afternoons, he worked at the Patterson Ranch outside town, bringing home his wages each week and insisting Dahlia take half for her debts. The bank manager's face when Dahlia made her first payment was something to behold. This is unexpected, Mrs. Foster, Mr. Simmons said, carefully counting the money. A pleasant surprise. There will be more, she promised. I intend to settle all my debts, Mr. Simmons. The man peered at her over his spectacles. I understand Mr. Westfield is staying at your property. People talk, Mrs. Foster. Dahlia stiffened. Mr. Westfield rents my barn and helps with repairs. Nothing improper about that. Of course, he said smoothly, just concerned for your reputation. "My reputation will survive," she replied coolly. "My homestead wouldn't have without those repairs." As she left the bank, Dahlia found herself fuming. The hypocrisy galled her. The same people who had whispered about her financial troubles now gossiped about her arrangement with Liam. Yet she couldn't deny that his presence had changed things. The shop was thriving with the new display window he'd installed, and for the first time in months, she slept without fear of losing her home. One evening, as they sat on her porch after supper, Dahlia found herself telling Liam about her marriage, how Emmett had swept her off her feet with grand promises and charming words, how the early years had been good until his schemes grew more elaborate and his absences longer. "The last time I saw him, he said he was going to strike a deal that would set us up for life," she said, staring into the gathering dusk. 3 days later, a man came looking for him, threatening violence if his gambling debts weren't paid. That's when I realized Emmett wasn't coming back. Liam was quiet for a moment. "You ever wonder if he might return?" Dahlia shook her head. "No, whatever else he was, Emmett wasn't a fool. He knows what would be waiting for him here." "The law and me," she said firmly. "I may have been naive, but I'm not anymore." Liam's low chuckle warmed something inside her. "Remind me never to cross you, Mrs. Foster." "Dahlia," she said impulsively, "if we're going to be business partners of sorts, you might as well use my given name." His smile deepened. "Dahlia, then, and I'm Liam." The easy silence that fell between them was comfortable in a way Dahlia hadn't experienced in years. With Liam, she didn't feel the need to fill every moment with words or to be anyone other than herself. "Tell me about this second chance you mentioned," she said after a while. "The one someone gave you." Liam leaned back in his chair, gaze fixed on the first stars appearing in the darkening sky. "I was a wild kid after my folks died, angry at the world, fell in with a rough crowd, did some things I'm not proud of." His voice grew distant. "Got caught trying to steal horses from a ranch in Colorado. Owner could have had me hanged, but he offered me a job instead. Said I looked like I needed direction more than punishment. He was right. Taught me everything about ranching, horses, honest work. Became the father I'd lost." Liam's expression softened with memory. "When he died 5 years ago, he left me enough money to start my own place, but I wasn't ready to settle, needed to see more of the world first. And now," Liam turned to look at her, his gaze thoughtful, "now I'm thinking maybe it's time." Something unspoken passed between them, a current of possibility that made Dahlia's heart beat faster. She looked away, suddenly conscious of how easy it would be to lean on this man who had appeared in her life like an answer to an unspoken prayer. "It's getting late," she said, standing abruptly. "I should turn in." Liam rose as well. "Of course. Good night, Dahlia." "Good night, Liam," she replied, retreating into the safety of her house where she could pretend she wasn't already coming to depend on his steady presence in her life. As August arrived with relentless heat, Dahlia's business flourished. Women from neighboring settlements began making the journey to Skidoo specifically for her dresses, and she hired a young girl to help with basic stitching to keep up with demand. Liam continued working at the Patterson Ranch, earning a reputation as a skilled horseman and reliable hand. The ranch owner, Jacob Patterson, took a liking to him and began sending extra work his way. "Patterson offered me a permanent position today," Liam told Dahlia one evening as they walked back from town. "Foreman's retiring next spring. Says if I'm still around, the job's mine." Dahlia felt a complicated mix of emotions at his news. "That's wonderful. It's a good position." "It is," he agreed. "Comes with a cabin on the property." "Oh," she tried to hide her disappointment. "You'd move out there then?" Liam glanced at her. "Haven't decided yet. Depends on a few things." Before she could ask what things he meant, They rounded the bend to her homestead and stopped short. A man was sitting on her porch, boots propped on the railing. Even at a distance, Dahlia recognized him instantly. "Emmett," she whispered, feeling as though the ground had dropped away beneath her feet. Liam tensed beside her. "Your husband," she nodded, unable to speak as Emmett spotted them and stood, waving with casual familiarity as though he'd only been gone a day instead of months. "Dahlia, sweetheart," he called, coming toward them with the easy charm she'd once found irresistible. "What a sight for sore eyes you are." Dahlia felt Liam's hand brush hers briefly, a gesture of support that gave her the strength to lift her chin and meet her husband's approach with a level gaze. Emmett Foster had always been handsome, with dark hair and a smile that had swept many women off their feet. He looked thinner now, his once expensive clothes worn at the edges, but his confidence remained undiminished. "Surprised to see me?" he asked when he reached them, his smile faltering slightly at Dahlia's silence. "Surprised you had the nerve to show your face," she replied, finding her voice at last. "After what you did." Emmett's gaze slid to Liam, sizing him up. "And who might this be?" "You've taken on a ranch hand in my absence?" "Liam Westfield." Liam introduced himself, not offering his hand. "A friend," Dahlia said firmly. "Which is more than I can say for you, Emmett." Emmett's expression hardened momentarily before the charming mask slipped back into place. "Now, darling, I know you must be upset. I should have written, but things got complicated. I'm back now, though, and with good news." "The only good news would be you turning yourself in for the debts you left behind," Dahlia said coldly. "Debts," Emmett waved dismissively. "Ancient history." "I've struck gold, Dahlia. Not literally, but might as well have. Made a fortune in a silver mining venture up north. Came back to share my good fortune with my beloved wife." Dahlia laughed, a sharp, humorless sound. "Do you expect me to believe that, after everything?" Emmett reached into his jacket and pulled out a wad of bills. "Believe this. $2,000 just to start, enough to clear any outstanding debts and set us up properly." Despite herself, Dahlia stared at the money. It was more cash than she'd seen in her life. "You should leave," Liam said quietly. "Mrs. Foster has rebuilt her life without you." Emmett's smile turned cold. "Last I checked, she's still Mrs. Emmett Foster, which makes this none of your concern, Cowboy." "Liam," Dahlia said, putting a hand on his arm when she saw him stiffen. "Would you mind giving us a moment? This is something I need to handle myself." Liam studied her face, then nodded. "I'll be at the barn if you need me." He fixed Emmett with a warning look before walking away. Once they were alone, Emmett stepped closer. "Who is he to you, Dahlia? You've barely been a widow for half a year." "I'm not a widow, Emmett. I'm an abandoned wife who's had to face your creditors, your lies, and the mess you left behind." She crossed her arms. "And Liam is a friend who offered help when no one else would." Emmett at least had the grace to look uncomfortable. "I admit, things didn't go as planned. I had to lay low for a while after some misunderstandings with my business associates. But I always intended to come back for you." "With what? More empty promises?" She shook her head. "Do you have any idea what these months have been like for me? The bank nearly took our home. I've been working my fingers raw to keep food on the table while paying off your debts. And I'm here to make it right." He held out the money again. "Take it. It's yours. We can start fresh, maybe even move to San Francisco. With my new connections and your talent, no." Dahlia stepped back. "I don't want your money, and I don't want to start over with you." Emmett's face darkened. "Don't be foolish. Whatever arrangement you have with that cowboy, it can't compare to what I'm offering. We're still married, Dahlia. You're my wife. A wife you abandoned without a second thought." She stood her ground. "I want a divorce, Emmett." He stared at her as if she'd slapped him. "A divorce? Do you have any idea how that would look? The scandal would ruin us both. I don't care how it looks. I care about finally being free of you and your lies." Emmett's charm vanished completely, replaced by cold calculation. "You won't get a divorce, Dahlia. No judge around here would grant one without proof I mistreated you. Abandonment isn't enough, not when I've returned with means to support you." "You did mistreat me," she said quietly. "You lied, you stole, you gambled away our future, and you left me to face the consequences alone." "Prove it," he challenged. "It's your word against mine, and I can be very persuasive, as you well know." He smiled thinly. "Besides, what would people think of your arrangement with Westfield if you tried to divorce me now? They'd assume the worst." Dahlia felt cold despite the summer heat. She knew Emmett was right about one thing: divorce would be difficult, especially in a small town where reputations mattered and women had few legal rights. "Get off my property, Emmett. Whatever we had is over." "It's my property too, darling. My name is still on the deed." He pocketed the money. "I'll give you time to reconsider. I'm staying at the hotel in town. When you're ready to be reasonable, you know where to find me." He tipped his hat with mocking courtesy and sauntered away, leaving Dahlia shaking with anger and uncertainty. Liam emerged from the barn as soon as Emmett was out of sight. "You all right?" he asked, concern evident in his voice. "He wants to reconcile," she said numbly. "Claims he struck it rich and wants us to start over." "Do you believe him?" "About the money," Dahlia laughed bitterly. "It looked real enough. But with Emmett, nothing is ever as it seems. The money probably belongs to someone else, or it's payment for something illegal." "What will you do?" She met his gaze. "I don't know. He's right, that divorce won't be easy. And legally, he has as much claim to this place as I do." Liam's jaw tightened. "He gave up any moral claim when he abandoned you. Moral claims don't stand up in court." Dahlia sighed, suddenly exhausted. "I need to think." "Whatever you decide," Liam said quietly, "I'm here." The simple declaration nearly undid her. "Thank you," she whispered, retreating to her house before he could see the tears threatening to fall. That night, sleep eluded her. The reappearance of Emmett had shaken her more than she wanted to admit. Not because she still loved him, that emotion had died during the long months of struggling alone, but because his return threatened everything she'd built. The next morning, Dahlia went to her shop early, hoping work would clear her mind. She was pinning a pattern when the bell above the door jingled. "We're not open yet," she called without looking up. "Not even for your husband." Dahlia straightened to find Emmett standing there, dressed in a new suit and looking every bit the successful businessman he claimed to be. "What do you want, Emmett?" He strolled around the shop, examining her work with apparent admiration. "Impressive. You've done well for yourself." "No thanks to you. Ancient history," he said dismissively. "I've been thinking about our situation. I understand you're upset, but surely we can reach a compromise." Dahlia put down her pins. "What kind of compromise?" "I settle your remaining debts. We maintain appearances as a reconciled couple. You continue your shop, I pursue my business interests." He smiled. "We both get what we want." "And what do you get from this arrangement?" "Besides a respectable front for whatever scheme you're running now." Emmett's smile tightened. "You were always too clever for your own good, Dahlia. Fine. I need a wife for the circles I'm moving in now. Successful men have wives. It inspires confidence. Find another woman to play that role. I'm not interested." "But you are my wife," he said silkily. "And if you refuse to be reasonable, I could make things very difficult for you, starting with that cowboy you've been so friendly with." Dahlia felt a chill. "Leave Liam out of this." "Ah," Emmett's eyes gleamed. "So it's Liam now, is it? Does he know you're still married, or have you led him to believe otherwise?" "He knows exactly what my situation is," Dahlia said firmly. "Unlike you, Liam has been honest from the start." "How touching." Emmett's voice hardened. Here's what's going to happen, Dahlia. You're going to accept my generous offer. We'll appear reconciled to the town. You'll tell your cowboy friend his services are no longer required. In exchange, I'll settle your debts and allow you to keep this little shop as your own enterprise. And if I refuse, then I exercise my legal rights as your husband. I sell this shop, claim the homestead, and let everyone know how you've been carrying on with another man while still married. His smile was cold. How do you think your respectable customers would react to that? Or the bank? Would they still extend credit to a woman of questionable virtue? Dahlia felt trapped. Emmett knew exactly which threats would be most effective. Her reputation was essential to her business, and in a small town like Skidoo, gossip could destroy everything she'd built. I need time to think, she said finally. Of course. Emmett straightened his already immaculate cuffs. Take until tomorrow. I'll expect your answer by noon. He tipped his hat and left, the bell jingling cheerfully behind him. Dahlia sank into a chair, mind racing. She couldn't accept Emmett's terms, but she couldn't see a way out that wouldn't cost her everything. The shop door opened again, and Dahlia looked up to find Liam standing there, concern etched on his face. Saw Foster leaving, he explained. Thought you might need a friendly face. The simple kindness in his voice nearly broke her. He's threatening to ruin me if I don't reconcile with him, she admitted. He has the legal right to everything we own together, including this shop. Liam's expression darkened. There has to be a way to fight this. Not without proof of his wrongdoing, and Emmett is careful, he always has been. She stood, pacing the small shop. What makes it worse is that he's right. If I refuse him, the gossip alone could destroy my business. You can't go back to him, Dahlia, Liam said quietly. Not after everything. She met his gaze. What choice do I have? We could leave, he suggested. Start fresh somewhere else. California's a big state. And go where? Do what? This shop, this town, it's all I have. She shook her head. I can't run, Liam. I won't let Emmett chase me from my own life again. Then we fight. Liam's voice was determined. There must be someone who knows what Foster was really up to before he left, someone who could testify about his debts or schemes. Dahlia considered this. The saloon owner, Murphy, might know something. Emmett spent a lot of time there before he disappeared. It's a start, Liam said. And the bank would have records of the loans Emmett took outright if we could prove fraud. Mr. Simmons isn't likely to help me go against a man he thinks is wealthy, Dahlia said skeptically. Especially not after his comments about my reputation. Let me talk to him. Banker to potential investor, might get further that way. Despite everything, Dahlia found herself smiling at Liam's determination. You don't have to do this. Yes, I do, he said simply. No one deserves to be blackmailed by their own husband. They agreed on a plan. Liam would speak with the bank manager and then Murphy at the saloon, while Dahlia would maintain her usual routine to avoid arousing Emmett's suspicions. That evening, Liam returned to the homestead looking grim. Murphy confirmed Foster was in deep with some dangerous men before he left town. Gambling debts mostly, but also money borrowed for supposed business deals. That matches what the creditors told me, Dahlia said. Did he know where Emmett went? Liam nodded. Said Foster was bragging about a big opportunity in a mining town up north. But Murphy thinks it was all talk to cover his tracks. He was running from his debts, not toward opportunity. And the bank? Simmons was tight-lipped, but I got him talking about investment opportunities. He mentioned some questionable loan applications he'd rejected recently. When I brought up Foster's name, he changed the subject fast. Liam frowned. I think Foster might have misrepresented himself to get those loans. Dahlia wasn't surprised. That sounds like Emmett, but without proof. We need more time, Liam said. Can you stall him tomorrow? Tell him you're considering his offer but need a few days. He won't like it, but I can try. The next day, Emmett arrived at the shop precisely at noon, dressed impeccably and wearing an expectant smile. "Have you come to your senses, my dear?" he asked. Dahlia had spent the morning rehearsing what to say. "I've been thinking about your proposal," she began carefully. "It has merit, but I need assurances." Emmett raised an eyebrow. "What sort of assurances?" "Financial independence," she said firmly. "Legal documentation that this shop remains mine alone, regardless of our marital status." "That could be arranged," he conceded. "And time," she added. "This is a significant decision. I need a week to put my affairs in order." Emmett's smile faded. "A week is too long. People are already talking about your arrangement with Westfield. We need to present a united front immediately." 3 days, then," she countered. "That's the least amount of time I need to prepare my customers for the change and to consider all implications." Emmett studied her, suspicion flickering in his eyes. "You're stalling, Dahlia." "Why? I'm being practical," she replied evenly. "Unlike you, I don't make life-altering decisions on impulse." The barb hit home. Emmett's jaw tightened momentarily before his charming mask slipped back into place. "Very well. 3 days. But I expect an answer by Friday, and it had better be the right one." "Understood," Dahlia said, relieved he had accepted the delay. After Emmett left, Dahlia closed the shop early and hurried to meet Liam at the homestead. He was waiting on the porch, a telegram in his hand. "I sent inquiries to contacts in some northern mining towns," he explained. "Asked about Foster's supposed success. And one response so far: no record of any Emmett Foster making a legitimate mining fortune in Bodie." He handed her the telegram. "But there is mention of a man matching his description who left town in a hurry after accusations of fraud." Dahlia read the telegram, hope rising. "This helps, but it's not enough to prove anything here in Skidoo." "No, but it's a start. I've sent more inquiries. With luck, we'll have more responses by Friday." They spent the next 2 days gathering what information they could. Liam made discreet inquiries around town, while Dahlia searched through old correspondence for anything that might incriminate Emmett. On Thursday evening, they made a breakthrough. Murphy from the saloon provided a signed statement confirming that Emmett had borrowed money from him using the homestead as collateral, something he had no right to do without Dahlia's knowledge, as the property had been part of her inheritance from her parents. "This proves he committed fraud," Dahlia said excitedly, reading Murphy's statement. "The homestead was never his to offer as collateral." "It's a start," Liam agreed, "but we need more to ensure he can't wriggle out of this." The final piece fell into place Friday morning, when a telegram arrived from the sheriff of a town called Silver Peak. It confirmed that Emmett Foster was wanted for questioning regarding a confidence scheme that had defrauded several investors of substantial sums. Armed with this evidence, they decided to confront Emmett together. They found him at the hotel preparing to meet Dahlia at her shop. "This is unexpected," he said, eyeing Liam with distaste. "I believe my meeting was with my wife alone." "Plans change," Dahlia replied coolly. "Especially when new information comes to light." She placed the telegrams and Murphy's statement on the table before him. Emmett's face remained impassive as he scanned the documents, but Dahlia knew him well enough to see the flicker of panic in his eyes. "Interesting reading material," he said, pushing the papers aside, "but hardly relevant to our discussion." "It's very relevant," Dahlia countered. "These prove you committed fraud both here and elsewhere. The sheriff in Silver Peak seems particularly interested in speaking with you." Emmett's charm vanished, replaced by cold anger. "What exactly do you hope to accomplish with this? Scandal touches everyone involved, Dahlia. Your reputation would be ruined along with mine." "I'm willing to take that chance," she said steadily. "Are you?" "You're bluffing," he sneered. You won't go to the law, you're too concerned with appearances. She might not, Liam interjected, but I have no such reservations, and the sheriff is a good friend of mine. Emmett assessed them both, calculation evident in his expression. What do you want? A divorce, Dahlia said promptly. Clean and simple. You sign the papers admitting abandonment, relinquish all claims to my property, and leave Skidoo for good. And in return, we don't share these documents with the law, Liam said. You get a head start. What you do with it is your business. Emmett laughed humorlessly. You expect me to walk away with nothing. After coming all this way, you'll walk away a free man, Dahlia pointed out. It's more than you deserve. A tense silence fell as Emmett considered his options. Finally, he nodded. Have the papers drawn up. I'll sign them before I leave town. Today, Dahlia insisted. The lawyer already has them prepared. You sign today and you're on the evening stage out of Skidoo. Emmett's eyes narrowed at how prepared they were, but he nodded again. Fine. Today. Under Liam's watchful eye, Emmett signed the divorce papers that afternoon. He made one last attempt to speak with Dahlia alone, but she refused. We have nothing more to say to each other, Emmett, she told him. Good luck with your next scheme. I hope it's far from here. His smile was bitter as he tipped his hat one final time. You've changed, Dahlia. Harder now. Less trusting. More discerning, she corrected. Goodbye, Emmett. They watched the stage carry him away that evening, an unexpected weight lifting from Dahlia's shoulders as it disappeared from view. It's really over, she said, hardly believing it. He's gone. Liam stood beside her, a solid presence in the gathering dusk. He won't be back, not with those telegrams hanging over his head. I should feel something more, Dahlia mused. Sadness, anger, something, but all I feel is relief. That's natural, Liam assured her. You've been carrying his burden for too long. They walked back to the homestead in companionable silence. The future stretched before Dahlia, suddenly full of possibilities she hadn't dared consider, while Emmett's shadow still loomed over her life. What happens now? She asked as they reached her porch. Now you're free to build the life you want, Liam said. No one else's debts to pay, no one else's mistakes to fix. And you, she turned to face him. Will you take the foreman's position at the Patterson Ranch? Liam hesitated. I'm not sure. Depends on a few things. What things? His eyes met hers, serious and searching. Whether there might be something worth staying closer to town for. Dahlia's heart quickened. Liam. I care for you, Dahlia, he said simply. Have since that first day when you stood up to the bank manager with your head held high despite everything. But I understand if it's too soon, or if you need time. She silenced him by stepping closer. When I met you, I was drowning in debts and despair. You said, then I'll pay them and stay beside you, and you did without asking anything in return. I wanted to help, he said softly. You did more than help. You reminded me what it feels like to trust someone. She took a deep breath. I care for you too, Liam. More than I thought possible after everything with Emmett. His smile was slow and warm as he reached for her hand. Then perhaps we could see where this might lead. No rush, no pressure, just two people getting to know each other properly. Dahlia smiled back, twining her fingers with his. I'd like that very much. As summer faded into autumn, Dahlia's shop continued to flourish. The story of her divorce from Emmett caused less scandal than she'd feared, largely because Mr. Simmons from the bank quietly let it be known that Emmett Foster had defrauded several businesses before disappearing. The community's sympathy, rather than censure, surprised Dahlia. Liam declined the foreman's position at the Patterson Ranch, instead accepting a partnership in a smaller horse breeding operation closer to town. He moved from the barn into a proper cabin he built on the edge of Dahlia's property, maintaining propriety while remaining close enough for daily visits. Their courtship progressed slowly, with evening walks and Sunday drives, shared meals and comfortable conversations. Liam proved himself the opposite of Emmett in every way that mattered: reliable, honest, and content with simple pleasures rather than grand schemes. In December, with the first snow dusting Skidoo, Liam proposed. He didn't offer diamonds or extravagant promises, just a simple silver band and his unwavering commitment. "I can't promise we'll be rich," he told her, "but I can promise you'll never face hardship alone again." Dahlia, remembering all too well the emptiness of Emmett's grand promises, found Liam's honest offer infinitely more valuable. "Yes," she said, letting him slip the ring onto her finger. "1,000 times yes." They married in the spring of 1879, a simple ceremony attended by the friends who had supported Dahlia through her darkest days. The shop closed for a week while they honeymooned at a hot spring resort in the mountains, a luxury Dahlia would never have imagined possible a year earlier. Upon their return, life settled into a rhythm of hard work and quiet contentment. Liam's horse breeding business began to gain recognition, while Dahlia's designs attracted customers from as far away as San Francisco. Together, they renovated the homestead, planting an orchard and expanding the garden Dahlia's parents had started years before. By the summer of 1880, they had paid off the last of Emmett's debts. To celebrate, Liam surprised Dahlia with materials for a proper studio addition to the shop. "You shouldn't have," she protested, even as she examined the fine fabrics and notions he'd selected. "You've earned it," he insisted. "Every penny of those debts is cleared and it's time to build something new." The studio became a reality by autumn, allowing Dahlia to take on an apprentice and expand her business further. Their hard work was paying off, creating the stability both had sought all their lives. In the spring of 1881, Dahlia discovered she was expecting their first child. The news filled their home with joy and preparations. Liam expanded the homestead, adding rooms for the growing family they both wanted. "Are you happy?" he asked one evening as they sat on their porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and crimson. Dahlia, her hand resting on the gentle swell of her stomach, considered the question. "Happier than I ever imagined possible," she answered truthfully. "When you found me that day, I was drowning in someone else's debts, convinced I'd lose everything. And now—" She smiled, leaning against his shoulder. "Now I know the difference between empty promises and real commitment, between someone who runs from problems and someone who faces them head-on." Liam's arm tightened around her. "I meant what I said that first day, you know, about staying beside you." "I know," she said softly. "That's why I trust you with my heart. You don't just say the words, you live them." Their son was born that fall, a strong, healthy boy they named Samuel, after Liam's mentor from Colorado. Motherhood brought new challenges for Dahlia, balancing the demands of her thriving business with the needs of an infant. But unlike her first marriage, she didn't face these challenges alone. Liam proved himself an involved father, often bringing Samuel to the fields where he worked with the horses, much to the amusement of his business partner. In the evenings, he would take the baby so Dahlia could catch up on designs or simply rest. "You're different from most men," she observed one night, watching him gently rock their son to sleep. "Most wouldn't be so involved with an infant." Liam smiled down at Samuel. "Most men don't know what they're missing then." He looked up at her. "Besides, I missed too much of life already, wandering all those years. I don't intend to miss a moment of this." As their family grew with the addition of a daughter 2 years later, so did their enterprises. Dahlia's designs gained enough recognition that a department store in Sacramento, requested a seasonal collection, while Liam's breeding program produced horses sought after throughout California. They faced challenges, of course, droughts that threatened the horses, economic downturns that affected luxury purchases like Dahlia's finer dresses. But they weathered these storms together, combining practical solutions with unwavering support for each other. In the summer of 1886, a familiar face appeared in Skidoo. Jacob Patterson, Liam's former employer, arrived with news that changed their lives once more. "I'm getting too old for ranching," he announced over dinner at their homestead. "Looking to sell the place, but don't want it going to just anyone. Thought of you first, Westfield." Liam glanced at Dahlia, surprise evident in his expression. "That's a generous thought, but the Patterson Ranch is worth more than we could manage even with our savings." The older man waved away his concern. "Not looking for market value, looking for someone who'll care for the land right, keep on the good hands who have worked for me all these years." He named a figure that, while still substantial, was well below what the property was worth. "You've built something fine here, both of you. But that land's got room for more horses, better grazing, room for those young ones to grow up proper." Later that night, after their guest had retired to the guest room, Liam and Dahlia discussed the unexpected offer. "It's a risk," she acknowledged. "A big one, but also an opportunity we might not see again." Liam nodded thoughtfully. "The breeding program could expand significantly with that much land, and the main house is twice the size of our place here." "What about my shop?" Dahlia asked. "The ranch is a fair distance from town." "We could keep this property," Liam suggested. "You could use the house as a residence when you need to be in town for several days, maybe even expand the shop into the front rooms eventually." The idea of maintaining two properties was ambitious, but as they talked through the night, the plan took shape. By morning, they had decided to accept Patterson's offer, using their savings and taking a manageable loan for the rest. The move to the ranch that autumn marked a new chapter in their lives. Dahlia split her time between the ranch and her shop in town, bringing the children with her when Liam was too busy with the horses. Their third child, another boy, was born the following spring in the spacious main house of what was now the Westfield Ranch. By 1890, their enterprises had grown beyond what either could have imagined back in 1878. The Westfield name was associated with quality horseflesh throughout the West, while Dahlia's designs graced society women from San Francisco to Denver. Their children thrived in the open spaces of the ranch, developing their own interests, Samuel showing his father's affinity for horses, while their daughter Elizabeth displayed her mother's eye for design. On the 10th anniversary of their meeting, Liam surprised Dahlia with a gift, a framed copy of the receipt for the final payment of Emmett's debts, alongside the first dollar earned from their joint enterprises. "From ending one chapter to beginning another," he said, watching her examine the frame. "Never would have guessed where that first offer of help would lead." Dahlia set the frame on the mantel and turned to embrace him. "I would have. Even then, something told me you were different, that you were a man who meant what he said. When I told you I'd pay those debts and stay beside you." He asked, smiling down at her. "Yes," she replied, resting her head against his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. "And every day since, you've proven it wasn't just words." Outside, the California sunset painted the ranch in gold, illuminating the orchard they'd planted, the expanded stables, and the children playing in the yard. From desperate beginnings and broken promises, had grown something neither could have envisioned that hot summer day in Skidoo, a life built on honesty, hard work, and the kind of love that shows itself in actions more than words. As evening settled over the Westfield Ranch, Liam wrapped his arm around Dahlia's waist, drawing her close as they watched their children from the porch of the home they'd built together. "Any regrets?" he asked quietly. Dahlia thought of the young woman she'd been, drowning in debts and despair, and the journey that had led her here to a thriving business, a loving family, and a partnership that had weathered every storm. "Not a single one," she answered, and meant it with all her heart.